This podcast contains explicit language.
And spoilers. Only if you suck. This is Dave.
This is Carlos.
Two Fat Guys Talk Games, episode... fuck if I know.
30.
Something.
I can check this real quick.
Dead air.
Talking, filling time on the podcast.
Air.
38. We're on episode 38 now.
We need to really start breaking this down by season.
We could do seasons. We could do 52 episodes.
Tell you what, as of episode 40, we go to season 2.
The fuck?
41.
41.
It would be no more arbitrary than a Japanese anime season.
Yeah, it really wouldn't be, I guess. We could do that. Season 2 will bring in new characters, new stakes, new romantic interests.
Sure.
Sure, of course it will. So today's topic is BlizzCon, but before we go on to BlizzCon, our hearts and feelings, and if you are a religious type person, prayers go out to the Philippines, having been hit with what is quite possibly the strongest storm in recorded history. I know I'm going to donate a bit when I get paid my meager employment insurance money in the coming week. If you can spare something, donate to your local charity or whatever organization is helping out the relief effort.
Also, just a shout out today that we're doing this podcast is Remembrance Day up here in Canada.
Indeed. So a shout out to you veterans out there, living or dead. That was not meant to sound nearly as offensive as it came out.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of respect for what has been done, even with some of the controversies over the years with the current group. That we really need to support our soldiers. They definitely do not get the respect nor the money they deserved.
Yeah, I think I think we need to remember that a lot of people made a lot of sacrifices, and that let two lazy fat fuckers like us sit in Dave's fine establishment and talk shit about games. So a salute to our troops and to those who have paid the ultimate price for our freedoms. Alright, that out of the way. BlizzCon! Let's talk some BlizzCon. Here to tell us what he thought of BlizzCon is Dave.
I didn't follow BlizzCon anywhere near as much as I normally would in the previous years, mainly because I've gotten out of WoW finally. The monkey's off my back. I've uninstalled the game, haven't been subscribed for... oh wow, almost 9 months now.
Would Warlords of Draenor make you come back?
You know, it's got a couple things in it that kinda have my interest.
I feel the same way. I never actually bought Mists of Pandaria.
Neither did I.
Pandaria. Not because I had any problem with Pandaria.
Oh yeah, none of that bullshit.
Or the much better talent system that it had, which is leaps and bounds above what WoW used to do. I have no issues with the more progressive elements of it. I was playing Cataclysm one day, and I was in Vashir with my Troll Death Knight, and I was like, you know what? I'm good. I've had my fun with WoW. And I just stopped.
It was kind of similar for me. I had been doing I left WoW for a number of reasons. Primarily, I left because my druid healer, who I was able to, before Cataclysm came out, be able to do Lich King heroic instances, like Halls of Reflection and everything else, that being the hardest one to do in a 5-man instance. I was able to do those with not too bad. It wasn't a face roll like everybody was saying, but I did keep heal over times on people and everything else.
Yeah, and
Cataclysm
had some...
Cataclysm came in and basically took my healer, raped it 4 ways to Sunday, and I couldn't even do regular Lich King instances anymore without getting bitch slapped. It was no longer any fun, and I wasn't going to roll a priest or a chamois just because I loved healing. So I didn't want to go DPS.
Sure.
I enjoyed my healing
Druid.
And it was no fun anymore. People can come back at me and say, oh, let's learn how to do your mana and everything else. No. It really did destroy my healing class.
I find that ironic because I like to play tanks and DPS. And one of my DPS characters was my Blood Elf Pally. And if our healer died, I was able to switch to healing and keep everyone alive 95% of the time. So
In Cataclysm or in Lich?
both. So despite not being a healer at all, I was able to actually be one. And shoutouts to Blizz for making hybrid classes actually feel like hybrids. I really like that in order to be a DPS paladin, you still have to heal. They merged that into the gameplay, and same thing with the Chamois and the DPS priest, right? I was watching a playthrough of the Final Fantasy IV interlude missions on PSP that take place between the first game and the second, and I remembered how Cecil, the paladin, had like 2 very minor healing spells, and he was a paladin really in name only. He was just a buff-ass warrior that had a couple healing spells. Not a lot of personality to that paladin. I like how WoW does it.
Okay. The other reason that...
What the hell? Oh, sorry, I forgot we're not allowed to tangent off into other topics on Two Fat Guys Talk Games.
Cecil, really?
Fuck Cecil. And his stupid family.
Sure. Moving back on. The other reason I left WoW was I got bored. I mean, I did Cataclysm. I got most of my factions to max. Did all that. Was doing dailies like crazy, trying to get materials, this, that, and everything. And then one day I was just flying around Stormwind, doing a daily, and I'm like, you know something? I'm kind of done with this.
Yeah.
Logged off, ended my subscription. Of course, I was locked into that 1-year subscription for getting Diablo 3.
Yeah, for the Diablo deal.
Which didn't turn out to be that bad of a deal because I was still really into WoW at the time.
I don't think it was a bad deal even today, even though I've given up PC Diablo for PS3 Diablo and soon to be PS4 Diablo.
Still enjoy it.
But I don't regret having done it because I still had my fun and I still got to experience a lot of the good Diablo 3 had on PC despite its grievances.
Yeah.
And if I do sign up for WoW again, which I might, Warlords of Draenor has a few things that look intriguing to me. I would have my Tyrael's Charger anyway, because it's still there, right? So,
what are the features that most interest you with the Warlords of Draenor?
A good question. I was about to ask you that question. So I'll ask you after I tell you mine. I like them giving you a free character boost to 90, and it giving you a special quest where you get geared up for your new level 90 guy, and you get thrown right into Draenor, right into the action of the expansion. And they were talking about how they debated having a pay option where you can boost any character beyond the first. They're going to give you one for free. And I know friend of the show Byron will love that because he hates leveling, and rightfully so. Because leveling, you're a bigger fan of leveling than I am. I'm okay with leveling, but I kind of want the option to just be max level so I can start learning the endgame, which leveling doesn't really teach me a lot about, despite the assurances of many a Blizzard forum poster. I definitely like the idea.
Learn to play.
Yeah, learn to play. Stop crying. QQ. I hate those forums. The new character models are definitely a big plus when I saw the refined orc. Because I have a soft spot in my heart for the Horde. So the orcs and trolls and the blood elves were my most picked Horde characters. Because, orcs, trolls, and blood elves, to me, always kind of define the Horde. You got your honorable savages, your intellectual cunning race, and then you have your smug-ass blood elves. And I know a lot of Hordelings think that the blood elves aren't really Horde, but fuck them. You know, you totally need the orcs to be like, for the Horde, and the trolls to be like, for the Horde, man. And you need your blood elves to go, yes, for the Horde. Charmed. You know, you kind of need that smugness. So seeing new character models, even though it's just new character models, seeing that they actually kind of look about as good as the Goblin and Pandaren models, which are currently the best models in the game right now, that is refreshing. WoW needs a bit of a visual refresh. It's an old game.
It's dated.
It's
definitely.
dated. There were some things about it that were dated even on release. I don't need it to force me to buy a new PC but I definitely like that we're getting this update with it. And
that has been their excuse for not updating a lot of the models in the game, is that they wanted to keep to the lowest common denominator to keep people being able to play it on PC.
This is true, but their system requirements do rise with each expansion.
Yes.
So, I mean, eventually that had to catch up to them. And, like, even the new models, they're nothing that, say, a PlayStation 2 couldn't render, probably.
Actually, I'm gonna go PS3 on that, because the PS2 did not do shading and dynamic lighting all that great.
Okay, fair enough. They're still kind of last-gen console, but they
Definitely.
still look good. They're still stylish, and they match the look like
They're no Knights of the Old Republic or WildStar, for instance.
Mm-hmm. I like this stuff announced for garrisons. They talked about how garrisons might give you access to your other characters' professions. I would love if they just went full on and just coordinated professions to your account the way it is in Diablo 3. So
I don't see them doing that anytime soon, but the whole garrison being account-wide would definitely be neat, because then they could do the whole professions over and you wouldn't have to keep on logging in and out of different characters. The garrison feature is actually the number one thing that has me kind of interested in the future, because it's that, and I love this in any video game as well. Mm-hmm. The ability to have a town that you build, that the stuff you're doing allows you to build additional parts of it, fortify it. I was worried they were going to do something along the lines of like a guild garrison.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not a guild garrison.
It was, your guild leader's still in control of all the decisions, you're just helping to build it. It's very much going to be an instanced, this is your stuff. There's not going to be, and this is another thing that worried me, I thought they were also going to have the ability to go against other people's garrisons.
Yeah, it's supposed to be...
That would suck, because I just want a garrison I can build that can be a central hub for my dailies, for doing crap like that, and fuck everybody else.
Yeah, it's supposed to be your hub. It's supposed to be your thing. It's similar to your ship in the Old Republic.
Yes.
MMO. The last thing I'll mention, and then I'll get your thoughts. As someone who is not really into real-time strategy, and thus never really took too much of an interest in Old Warcraft, it's kind of cool to see this bit of history kind of crossing over with the present. It's kind of cool that I like the idea of Garrosh somehow going back in time, stopping the orcs from drinking demon blood, and organizing them into a what-if scenario. What if they became this powerful iron horde without the influence of demons, and they started invading the present? That, I think, is pretty cool. I like, it kind of, it doesn't have to be a time travel story. It could be just this alternate reality intersecting with the present. And
that's going to be what it's going to end up being.
And, I can see all these old characters that a lot of PC gamers at the time remember fondly, but I never really enjoyed or cared for because I was never really into RTS games, so I didn't really play the first couple Warcrafts. So that's me. How about you?
Well, just to continue on with your thought there, when I read the headline, they were going to be taking us back into Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2, and that people are going to be able to relive the past and everything else, I was kind of pumped until I learned what they were actually doing. It's cool on one hand. On the other hand, kind of a bitch slap to those of us who were like, we actually get to see the RTS storyline combat stuff in the game. We're not going to, because Garrosh has already made that not going to happen.
Well, yeah,
he's changed time, so we're not going to see, this is the original sacking of Stormwind. We're not going to see Doomhammer take out Zoldan. All this other stuff. It's not going to happen, or if it does happen, it's not going to be like the original stuff. So really, going back and saying we're reliving Warcraft 1 and 2, not in the least. Because Warcraft 1 and 2 took place on Azeroth. We're looking at a very different storyline, and we all know how it's going to end.
Not necessarily.
Blizzard doesn't have the balls to pull another Cataclysm.
They had the balls to pull the first Cataclysm.
On the other hand, well, I'm still of the opinion if they didn't do that, WoW would have died, even faster than it is now. If they had not done something that was world changed, that would make all kinds of areas completely new to even old players, I don't think a lot of us would have still stuck around. But now that I say that, I only thought they had 1, maybe 2 more expansions in them. They're still talking another 3, 4, 5 expansions.
They could probably keep it going. They keep the models
They
updated.
really
They keep
need
the
to redo
mechanics
the
updated.
engine. Now, my other worry for Warlords of Draenor is we're still looking at 6 months to a year out. They're bleeding subscriptions like crazy, and they've already come out and said they're adding no new content to Pandaria between now and then.
Yeah, it kind of makes me hope that this is going to be a sooner rather than later thing.
Even at 6 months, now that they have announced the new expansion, and I mean, I was part of a big rating group guild at one point. You saw the same thing happen before every expansion. Everybody's done all the end game raids, mastered it, everything else, and then everybody basically shuts off their account until the next expansion comes out.
Maybe in this case, though, it's not as bad because for the
worse.
longest time, WoW was Blizzard's only thing. They hadn't made a new Diablo in forever. They hadn't made a new StarCraft or Warcraft, proper Warcraft in forever, and they still haven't. And then with StarCraft 2, they started branching into other games. They started realizing we need to be more than just a one-trick pony, right? We need to look at all these other franchises we have and bring those out, like the Diablo 3 and then its expansion. This very cool Dota-like thing that crosses over all their characters. Hearthstone, which is free to play and on multiple platforms, right? So, in a way, there are other ways to tide people, and even if WoW, they're not getting WoW subscription money, if they're still playing Blizzard properties, they're still hooked for the long term. So maybe that's a concern that maybe they're not too worried, and that's why they're not going to have another Pandaria patch. But please continue.
WoW is bleeding profusely subscriptions. They are dropping like crazy, and I think over the next 6 months, we could see, I mean, the next expansion is going to happen. We know that. Their parent company may not accept for the next expansion after that how fast they're bleeding content.
I thought Activision Blizzard bought themselves out of
They did, but I
Vivendi.
still consider Activision to be the parent company.
Well, I thought it was Activision Blizzard.
It is, but they're the ones who are firmly in control.
Do you think we will still see a free-to-play shift despite them saying
No.
that they're never going to go free-to-play?
No, I think Blizz in this case is definitely not going to go free-to-play. Let's face it, they've already got level 1 to 20 as free-to-play.
And they have other free-to-play properties now, so that will be out soon.
Maybe they'll expand to level 30 for free-to-play, just as the additional hook, but
Or they'll point you to Hearthstone or Heroes of the Storm.
they're not going to go a free-to-play method at this point.
Not for WoW.
WoW is way too successful, even with the bleeding subscriptions, to keep the servers going.
Mm-hmm. And, yeah, like, okay, they're hemorrhaging subscriptions, but I mean, like, they still are at 7.6 fucking million. Like, they're...
I don't know what their last subscription count was. Again, I mean, I've got MMO Champion up on the screen here now, and this is the first time I've had this site open in a year.
It still looks the same.
And it
ugly
hasn't
green
changed.
everywhere.
Let's just do a search here. Okay, nothing on page 1.
I'm pretty sure they're at 7.6 million. I'm almost certain they're at 7.6.
I will not be happy until I have a number.
Almost completely certain. 67% certain. 42% certain. 28%. 2%. 0.25%. I only have one testicle.
I'm already on page 4. I no longer care.
It's 7.6 million. And so they still have tons and tons of fucking, of subscribers. But what else? What else in Warlords of Draenor would entice you to return?
They saw a wide amount of people not come back for Pandaria. For a variety of reasons. I don't subscribe to the whole, oh, it's panda.
I hate pandas.
Exactly.
Kung Fu Panda. You know a real panda would murder the shit out of you?
Yeah.
Gee, pandas are vicious.
However, I did beta test Pandaria.
So did I.
So I got a chance to play the pandas a little bit, do a couple things. So I that's kind of why I made the decision not to get it. But for those people like me who didn't get Pandaria, Blizz would probably be doing themselves a very big service by doing a combo pack for $60. Instead of charging me $60 for just the Warlords of Draenor, throw in Pandaria with it.
Well, I don't think they do expansions at $60. I think their
Yes, they do.
expansions are $39 or something.
I wish.
Is that right? Well, I know base WoW now includes everything up to Cataclysm, so
Yeah.
all you have to do, and they do that. They fold the expansions back.
Yes, but I mean for day one launch, if they want, like, I'm not going to do a level 90 roll. I'm not going to use that. If I'm going to go to level 100, if I'm going to play the Warlords of Draenor stuff, I'm going to do it with my current characters.
And that's fine. Then you save that, and let's say one day you want to try a character class you don't have.
But here's my point. If Blizz wanted me back earlier, what they do is something similar to their Diablo 3 bargain there. Wouldn't be for a year, because I wouldn't accept that.
Where you subsidize getting Warlords of Draenor for a certain amount of time.
If they say did a 6-month thing, and then I had to pay an additional $20 on top of that to do Warlords of Draenor, sort of thing, but I got Pandaria as part of that, I'd probably be in a lot earlier so I could get my level 80 character to level 90 before that.
Gotcha.
Because I want to do it with my current character. That's the one that has all of the reputation stuff. Granted, that doesn't really matter anymore because it's all account bound.
And your character will be level 85, right?
True.
Yeah, so you won't have to...
There's still a good amount of content in Pandaria. I just didn't care about the Pokemon or the Plant vs. Zombies or the farming.
I think Blizzard pet battles do a few things that Pokemon could learn from. Like, I like how they display the element of your attack and what it beats. You don't have to memorize that fairy beats fighting in dark. It would tell you that if it was made by Blizzard. So, I wouldn't knock it. In fact, I would argue Blizzard PvP being a giant joke, or WoW PvP being a giant joke, that pet battle PvP is probably much more strategic and thoughtful than Battlegrounds or anything like that.
I'll kind of agree with you on that. I mean,
I can make my orange tabby fight other tabbies.
I'm still playing Guild Wars off and on.
Mm-hmm.
And when I am playing Guild Wars, I'm usually playing either the current event or I'm in the Battlegrounds. If WoW wants to advance the PvP area, and I'm not talking just, 5-on-5 sort of thing, they really need to take great strides in trying to do what Guild Wars does. They're giant battleground areas where you're taking... these battlegrounds go for months. Well, for a month, actually. And it's one giant warlord-style battleground. Hundreds of players sometimes. That gets awesome. It's continual. One person gets out of the battleground, somebody's already been queued up to jump in and take their place. It's continual. It's awesome. So I would love to see WoW take on some of the things that Guild Wars has done for their battlegrounds, but I'm not too hopeful in that retrospect, mainly because, Blizzard doesn't seem to be able to learn that quickly.
Yeah, that's a big point. Blizzard takes years to do what other devs do in months.
Yeah.
They argue it's because their stupid iterative process makes perfection. And then they put out something that's comparable to or worse than what their competitors do and much faster. I suspect there's a culture of elitism at Blizzard. I suspect if you looked at the high-end development process, you would find a lot of very elitist assholes at the helm.
That very well could be.
Despite really, really liking Diablo 3 and being really kind of impressed with some of the other stuff they've shown. Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls.
We done with them well completely? Is there anything else in there that they're doing that is interesting? Well, I may have missed some stuff.
Well, they've shown some of the level 100 talent concepts. They've talked about a few of the class changes they want to do, and some of the questing changes, which are nice. How your quest log will tell you whether or not a quest is part of a zone story or not, or whether it's a side quest.
Okay, didn't see that.
So you will be able to decide: do I really want to do the side quest, or do I want to just advance the zone story? Heirlooms are finally account wide. When you buy an heirloom, it goes into a special tab on your character page.
Will that affect?
You can just drag it.
Will that affect previous heirlooms or only ones you buy new?
I have no clue.
Yeah.
The screen they showed past heirlooms.
Okay, good.
Like, they showed stuff like the Arcanite Reaper heirloom thing, right?
Ooh.
So, certain toys and whatnot are now account-wide in the same style, where they go to a special page, and then you can just drag them right to your inventory. They're taking out hit and evade, which is good. So no more dice rolling on your fucking hits.
Good.
They're taking out a bunch of stuff that affects that, like pairing and whatnot. No more dice rolling. No more needing to find an online calculator because you need to get a stat only to a certain amount and then stop because any more of hit will be wasted.
Yeah.
None of that shit. They're also reforging because without the need for that, you don't really need to reforge shit anymore.
That's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that Diablo's getting it and WoW's losing it, but whatever.
Yeah.
Arguably, Diablo needs it a bit more.
I still think it would have been a neat little option to sort of still allow you to customize your equipment a little bit more.
Part of the new models is that they're making capes supposedly more fluid. They didn't show anything, but that is like a top thing on their list of on their list for their hard assets.
I did see a point on there that in the case of the pigtails on the one gnome.
The gnome female?
Yeah, it actually animates separately.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
the models that were
way
symmetrical.
to get up to 2005.
The models that were symmetrical before, like the dwarf and the gnome, are not anymore. So the dwarf had some 500 polygons mirrored for a total of just over 1,000, and now they have just shy of like 8,000, and they're not symmetrical anymore, right? So. Yeah, I think we've covered just about everything that's going to be in this new expansion.
I see Chris Metzen still around. That's unfortunate.
Well, here's the thing about Metzen. He has some interesting ideas when it comes to both storytelling and when it comes to reality, but you can't deny that the guy's filled with a lot of energy and does cool voice acting.
Oh, I'll say one thing I don't like about Warlords of Draenor.
What's that?
The map is basically the exact same thing as Burning Crusade.
Well, it's Draenor.
No. My point here is Draenor was an entire fucking planet before it broke up into space continent. I guess we're seeing a giant retcon, is what I'm saying.
Sure. This is Blizzard.
I mean, it has almost the exact same boundaries.
Turns out Sargeras was never evil. It was the gnomes all...
No, he was corrupted.
He was corrupted by the gnomes.
Yeah, I can't see too much more in here. I mean, again, I didn't exactly follow along with everything, so I don't know everything that's going on, but okay, that's fine. We can move on
to the Diablo.
To Diablo.
So we're playing a ton of Diablo 3 on console, so hearing that the expansion is coming to console, even if it might come out fully priced, you know what? That's a bit of a rip-off, but whatever. I will play it enough to justify the purchase. Blizzard says there will be a way to transfer your saves to PlayStation 4. Warms my heart and hardens my penis because I really want that. So being able to play the expansion with all its cool looking features on my console, giddy up. I'm all for that. But regardless of what system you have Diablo for, a lot of cool new features. You can play in adventure mode where you're no longer locked in your story. You can go anywhere you want and find quests and loot runs and little events that let you kind of just stick around and find more loot. That's pretty cool.
Bounties
and whatnot. To be able to transmogrify your gear and make yourself look exactly how you want instead of wearing those ugly green pants we still have. The pox falls, which thanks to the loot improvements on console, and PC players will get to enjoy this soon, can roll at any level. So you could have pox falls your entire run. You'll be able to transmogrify them so that you're not wearing a shit lime green on your crotch. The reforging where you can reroll stats on your gear, that's kind of cool. The Crusader looks like a mad amount of fun. The new act, very gothic European looking place with evil angel constructs that look creepy, but in a way that an angelic being might make something creepy. That's awesome as well. I'm really liking that. I'm pretty much just gushing about Reaper of Souls. It's stuff we've already kind of known, just iterated on. But whatever, man. I'm super hype for it.
Well, I mean, I definitely was starting to get more interested in it when I saw that it was going to be a Nephilim city.
Explain Nephilim City.
Well, the swamps outside of Westmarch?
That's a place.
Yeah. It holds the ruins of a Nephilim city, and that is a lot of the architecture they've shown us. Is that, so I'm really kind of interested there. They also revealed that was where Tira was trying to store the Black Soul Stone, and that's why it's so interesting that that the other angel guy there,
Malthael.
Mathiel.
Malthael.
Okay. Made it in there, so he must have done something along the lines of what Tyrael did.
Mm-hmm.
Or, see corruption, blah, blah, blah.
I like for some of the stuff they're announcing, like for this adventure mode where you go into loot runs and stuff, that it can spawn most areas of the game, and it can spawn any enemy from anywhere in the game in those areas. So they were saying you could be in Whimsyshire fighting demons, or you could be fighting ponies in Zoltan Kuhl's archives, and I'm like, yeah, giddy up. Giddy up. Let's do this.
Yep. I know that's going to piss off some people. Because if a Whimsyshire pony or plant came along while they were in the middle of a deep, dark dungeon, oh god, brightness in my dungeon, no!
I saw another epic pony in a Whimsyshire run.
Uh-huh.
I forget what it was called, but its tagline was "Be careful what you wish for."
Nice.
It was pretty brutal. On a side, I got my next upgrade to that staff, so we can do the next difficulty up on Whimsyshire.
And I'm going to today then.
Oh god, we'll die!
This is gonna be awesome.
It'll be the equivalent of hell difficulty. I just beat Nightmare. We're gonna get murdered. It'll be fun. And, it'll, Diablo 3. Looking forward to Reaper of Souls. Very, very excited.
It's definitely a much better game on pad. My fingers don't bleed anywhere near as much as they used to.
Indeed. I am finding that the DualShock 3, I'm starting to realize why it's a bit difficult to use the analog nubs for extended periods of time. Partly because of their placement and partly because they're convex, which is fine in the short term, but in the long term it makes my thumb kind of sore. I'm kind of happy that there's that little concave section on the PlayStation 4 pad.
Yeah, I guess.
I've
never really cared about it. That's not what hurts me. I find these days, with my aging, decrepit body now, that it's the triggers.
Yeah,
having to hold triggers for a long period of time, shooters or everything else, driving games, is what hurts my hands.
Friend of the show, Marcus, showed me the DualShock 4 he recently acquired over Skype video, and the triggers look to be much improved, as does the controller as a whole.
I've actually played a couple of PS4 games now.
Cool.
The EB Games on the south side there, at Southgate, they have a demo podium.
Cool.
And so I was playing Knack, which looks neat, and if I had a PS4 I'd probably get, but I'd hope the difficulty would be a little bit harder because, holy crap, jump and then attack was way too broken. So I'm hoping it was like the first level of the game before they were throwing anything difficult at you, because that was just way too easy. Also played the PS4 demo for Pinball Arcade. It has the new dynamic light stuff in it, so it looked really good. Which really got me pissed off when I grabbed the demo for PC and it didn't have it. So I'm holding off on buying that game until they actually put the fucking features in.
Indeed.
But no, the controller seemed very nice and responsive. I've never really cared about how my analog nubs are, so I wasn't really looking for anything there. Didn't notice any difference, to be honest. The triggers are better, because actually they have hooks for you now.
Which is good.
You don't just slide off.
Yep, no slope triggers.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, it felt like a fine controller. It was responsive. The D-pad seemed to be a little bit better on it than even the DualShock 3s.
The DualShock 3 D-pad I find is very stiff. It looks just like the DualShock 2 D-pad, but it doesn't feel quite the same.
Exactly.
It'll be great to play games on it, and Diablo 3 specifically. So
funny enough, the X-Bone still has no announcement for Diablo 3 or the expansion.
Yeah, that was a curious omission, because Xbox 360 got Diablo 3.
Yeah.
I know the PlayStation 4 version got tons more bonus items.
There are some...
Or PlayStation 3 version, rather.
There's the usual rumors about, exclusivity and everything else, which I don't think this has anything to do with being an exclusive game. I'm thinking that Blizzard may be playing hard to get with the requiring Xbox Gold subscription to play their game.
Maybe, but keep in mind you're going to require that for PlayStation 4.
Actually, remember, they're leaving up whether a online game requires a PS Plus subscription to the actual developers.
I never heard that. I heard that it's absolutely required. I think you are incorrect. Here to Google it is Dave. I'll provide you some music as he does his thing.
Multiplayer.
This is... I better not. We don't want to pay anyone.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to find it, because it doesn't exist. Though there is something we can talk about the PlayStation 4 while
Fire
we're on
away.
this topic. This morning, friend of the show Shane sent me an email where some blogger on IGM
Oh, God.
was talking about, I forget, IGN or some other fucking site, I don't care. They were talking about how the PlayStation 4 EULA has terms in it that says you may not sell, reproduce any portion of the software. And how that's Sony stabbing people in the back, apparently, because now you can't legally sell your games.
Wait. Say that again?
So apparently the PlayStation 4 EULA specifically states in it, it has provisions saying you may not sell, modify, whatever, the software without express written permission by Sony. Standard EULA stuff.
Yeah.
Blogger in question was adamant that this means Sony is stabbing people in the back now that they've got the
Of course.
That said, this is a standard EULA. It didn't sound any different. Even if Sony wanted to enforce people not reselling their games, which it doesn't look like they do, they wouldn't be able to do much unless it's an MMO or has an activation code of some kind, right?
Correct.
So, if you've heard about this, people, rest assured, it's not going to make you unable to sell your PlayStation 4
Yeah,
stuff.
no,
It's not.
that sounds like a guy just being most people would accuse him of being an Xbox fanboy.
No.
I'm just going to call him an idiot because Sony has been very, very clear that the only thing you have to do to sell your game is to hand the game to a person and take their money.
The thing is, I'm not going to call the guy an idiot because he's looking at the legalese, and the legalese of the EULA would permit Sony to say you're not allowed to sell that.
That's kind of what Nintendo tried to do back in the 90s, and the law basically told them to go fuck themselves, because they can say that I'm not allowed to sell my game, but I'm going to sell my fucking game.
Well, keep in mind, I'm playing devil's advocate here.
I know.
I don't think this guy is an idiot to bring up the point. I think the alarm over it is kind of overbearing.
Yeah.
It's kind of unwarranted.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's idiotic for him to bring it up. It is kind of fishy that this would be part of the EULA now when it's not part of the PS3 EULA, right? So, I mean...
I think they're trying to protect themselves because there are going to be some games that you're able to build your own content to.
Yes, and they're going to own that content. And this is no different than anyone else owning any content you build in any other game.
Exactly.
It's just, this is also a fact of life in copyright law. You can't write fan fiction and claim ownership to it. If Sega wanted to claim all of the Triple Peeps fan fiction that I wrote with my brother and cousin as their own, because we used to write Sonic fan fiction. Oh god, don't Google it.
I'll provide a link after.
Oh no! If...
Email me directly for some of his earlier fan fiction.
If Sega decided that they wanted to claim it, they could. We couldn't stop.
You couldn't stop them, but if I'm not mistaken, they would have to give you some credit.
They would have to give me none. They own it.
Really?
They own derivative works based off their property.
Oh, okay.
That's why I say don't do fan fiction. Keep it to yourself. Don't publish it, and then use it to create original IPs out of.
Of course, you realize that with some of a couple of your fan fictions there, Square and a whole bunch of other game companies.
Oh yeah, they totally could. Square could go, we don't like the fact that you had Cloud be a sarcastic jerk-off to Eggman. And I'd be like, you realize what you just said, right? You realize the words that just came out of your mouth. Yeah, but, oh god, the habits of our teenage selves.
Yeah, totally giving everybody links to all of his fanfictions.
You're out of luck there, because I'm the guy who post edits and puts everything up, so fuck you!
Comments for the win.
Yeah, comments. I'll kill you.
Email me directly for complete zip files of said fictions.
I will cut out your heart and eat it in front of you while you watch with no heart.
As far as the EULA thing, I think it's kind of a non-issue. It's them protecting themselves for some of the software that's coming out. What I think is a little bit more fishy is, have you been on your PlayStation in the past day or so?
Matter of fact, I have.
And did you read the new EULA that they required you to accept?
No, what's on it?
It is that they are now able to monitor your messages. However, it's not to resell or to give to advertisers. I think that's more of a U.S. government requirement now. Methinks. Xbox or Xbone. People who got that guy who got his Xbone early, getting a temporary ban for hooking up to Xbox Live.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I mean, they've already...
This is an aside since we have BlizzCon stuff to talk about, but...
Do we?
What do I think... Oh yeah, there's still Heroes of the Storm and Hearthstone to talk about.
Neither of which I gave a flying fuck about, so I'm going to rely on you for news on that.
Sure. So, should Microsoft ban him? I don't know. Did he receive the console under some kind of agreement that stated...
Target has admitted that they shipped some early. Microsoft has, just to be fair here, has said that his ban will be lifted.
I argue that the kid doesn't deserve a ban. Target deserves a fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, him unboxing it, showing off pictures and everything else, guess what? He got a legal package in the mail, which he purchased. He didn't steal it or whatever else. He legally got it early. So he can do whatever the fuck he wants with it. Just because by hooking up to Xbox Live, you're considering to be a thief or unscrupulous?
Yeah.
He legally got it from Target. They shipped it early. I'm glad that Major Nelson has said they're going to lift his ban.
Which they
temporary or not.
Which they should. They should lift his ban. Never deserved it in the first place.
And, I mean, Microsoft basically has that day one patch that will enable everything.
Everything.
So, right now he's got basically a dead console because it can't do diddly squat other than boot up and give you the interface. He can't go on Xbox Live. He can't do anything. There's no games out. Which is kind of funny because the PS4 already has games on the shelf. You can already buy NAC controllers, everything else.
Sure.
EV. So anyway, it probably wouldn't work anyway if there had been. But yeah, no, it was it's one of those automatic things of, oh my god, somebody fired up an Xbox One, ban them. It's like, what?
Yeah,
it's
silly.
And that wasn't an automatic ban by the system. Somebody actually had to push a button saying ban.
Yeah, fuck that. Hate that. I hate excessive and overbearing, heavy-handed banning in general.
Yeah.
Which I've talked about before on this very podcast. I gotta tell you, I'm not terribly excited to get either new console right now.
Exactly.
I'm more excited to get both in the future. The only reason I would want an Xbox One right now would be Killer Instinct, and I don't have enough money to burn to do that. And the only reason I would want a PlayStation 4 right now is... I can't think of a launch game I really want, but I definitely want it for the future. So again, there's no reason for me to get it.
For me, an Xbox One would be for Dead Rising 3.
Mm-hmm.
And a PS4 would be for Assassin's Creed 4. But that's one of those, would be an impulse buy at best.
Sure.
I kind of want to go for the Gen 2.
Yeah, I'll get an old one, but I want to wait at least a month or so to see if any real major problems crop up. I recently did buy a new console. I bought a 3DS, and I talked about it last time. Very impressed with it. And I kind of want a Wii U now, because as I talked about on the E3 Impressions episode, And a few times after that, there are games out on the Wii U and coming out that I really want, so I'll probably get a Wii U before I get either new console.
I don't know if I'm going to get a Wii U, mainly because when I look back at the Wii, I kind of see it as a waste. It needs more games and more third-party support before I give it my money.
Well, that's why I've held off until now, because...
But I do have a 3DS Zelda-themed 3DS on order with EB Games for the launch of Link.
Yes, and I have enough funds in my eShop to buy that electronically, so...
So when I get that, I'll also be buying the Game Boy Advance, as well as... Game Boy Advance and everything else of Shantae.
Yep, the original Shantae on Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
Then there's the DSi eShop Shantae game, which you can't save to your SD card for some reason, as we've talked about before. And then there's the upcoming Risky's Revenge on 3DS. And then the fourth game, which is currently on Kickstarter. Actually, that Risky's Revenge, I think, is coming to Steam around the same time, so we'll see. No, I thought it was.
No.
Then what about the fourth game? Isn't that coming to Steam?
Fourth game is coming to Steam, but the third game, it was greenlit, and this is, as a side note, this is kind of why the Steam greenlight is also broken as well, is that they were looking for interest in doing it, but they had no intention of doing it right then and there. They talked that after the Kickstarter is done for the fourth game, they may go back if there's still interest for the third game on PC. But for a game that's been greenlit, I think there needs to be a requirement that if you're greenlit, you have it on Steam within X amount of months.
I would tend to agree. I'd probably be fairly generous.
I even say a year, but not 2-3 years.
I'd say give them a year. Give them a year. Like, be part of the agreement. It's like, if greenlit, you must have your game ready within a year, or there will be repercussions. You won't be able to put further games on greenlight.
Yeah.
You might not have Valve's support for games you want to release, right? So yeah, Shantae. It's gonna be fun. Let's talk about Heroes of the Storm, which was revealed at BlizzCon. Did you see the opening cinematic for Heroes of the Storm?
I know nothing about it.
Okay, we're gonna watch that opening cinematic after we're done here, because it is awesome. Can you think of how awesome it would be to have a full CG opening cinematic of Tyrael fighting Zerg Kerrigan, or of the unreleased StarCraft ghost chick fighting the Lich King, or of Raynor in full gear and guns fighting Diablo?
What is this game?
Hang on, we're talking about cinematics right now. The cinematic when Raynor is fighting Diablo and he's like, oh shit. It's just so awesome. It is like the coolest crossover, the craziest crossover. Like, Raynor should not be fighting Diablo. They don't look like they belong in the same universe, yet they are, and it's awesome. Heroes of the Storm is Blizzard Dota. It's a new title for Blizzard Dota.
You just lost me.
It's their Dota game, basically. They're Defenders of the Ancients, kind of free-to-play game. They're saying a few things that I do like about it. They're saying that, they're trying to mix the appeal of playing an old Warcraft game and Diablo into the interface. And they want matches to be very quick. 15-minute matches at most is what they said. There are also a bunch of cool skins you can put on characters, like you can give Diablo a Murloc skin, so he looks like a giant demonic Murloc. Fuck you, Dave. Fuck you and your judgment, and the look you're giving me. Blizzard Dota! Cool intro. Let's move on to Hearthstone.
Probably a shitty game like all the other Dotas.
Maybe, but it's free to play, so I'll try it out. And I like that they want to keep match length down. And if they manage to make the buy to win factor lessened or gone completely, that like what you need to do in League of Legends, I'll be like, yeah, I kind of wanted to try a game like this. I just didn't want to have to pay to be competitive.
Fair enough. Not my cup of tea, definitely.
We're going to watch a cinematic after the podcast, and you're going to be like, that was a cool fucking cinematic.
Oh, probably.
Regardless of what you think of the game.
Because Blizzard does amazing cinematics.
Yes, they do. Yes,
I can't think of a bad cinematic that they have done. It's just, I find that, especially in today's day and age, there's two types of games that bring out the asshole in people.
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty
and
Dotas.
Sure. And you have different experience with Call of Duty players than I do. I don't care for Call of Duty, but every Call of Duty player I've met has been super open to playing other games, which is why I hate when people shit on Call of Duty players. But you also go to Frag every year, and you encounter them, and you say that they're a loud, rowdy, and inconsiderate bunch. So I have to take that into account as well.
That falls into the Call of Duty / not Team Fortress, the other one. The other shooter.
Valve? Dota?
No, it was,
Team Fortress, Tribes, Half-Life mod. Source Engine. Team Fortress.
No, it wasn't. No, Team Fortress players tend to be pretty good. Crap!
Whatever. All I gotta say is when I visited you at Frag for that 5 minutes, everybody looked dead and destitute. And I'm like, man. And the next day I went to a fighting game tournament where people were hype as shit, so. Hype is fine, but what you tell me about these players who are obnoxiously inconsiderate is that they're obnoxiously inconsiderate. I get that. And I can kind of see being put off by something that even sounds like it's like League of Legends. I get that. That said, I'm not going to look away from Heroes of the Storm just yet. I'm going to keep an eye on it. The other big game that was featured was Hearthstone. I have yet to try the beta of this. I kind of want to, because I kind of like a good electronic card game now and then. It's coming out to mobile devices and tablets as well. And free to play and connected to your account so you could play on any device wherever you want. That's pretty fucking cool, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And that's good to see Blizzard branching off on that. And they joked about it on BlizzCon. They talked about how Hearthstone is the first game we've done in a very long time that was conceived of and will be released in the same year.
Yeah.
They also talked about the Warcraft movie, but I don't think you're terribly interested in talking about the Warcraft movie, are you?
Well, I know enough about it. It's almost had as much of a long development time as Duke Nukem Forever at this point. It's been through more hands than Babylonian horror. Rob
Pardo joked about that. He said, this Warcraft movie has been in development even longer than some of our games, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So, they talked about how the Warcraft movie is going to be set in, it's going to be set before World of Warcraft. It's going to be about the invasion of Azeroth, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
It makes sense partly because that's good cinematic material.
Yeah.
And that's good to tie into Warlords of Draenor. Here's the
Depends.
thing. People who just go to see the Warcraft movie won't give a fuck. But people playing Warlords of Draenor, especially people like me, who didn't really play the RTS as much, will be able to go back and go, okay, now I'm seeing the events in a new light, and now I see what this alternate history is derived from. So I think it's well timed to have it be talked about now, and for it to come out maybe around the time Warlords is out. I think it's timely. They talked to the director, I forget his name, but he has some good things to his credit. So, mildly excited for Warcraft movie. Mildly.
I will probably end up seeing it. I mean, again, Blizzard doesn't do bad CG, so we would have to hope that they'd hold any producer of a movie to similar, at least graphical standards.
Indeed. I'm a little worried about how orcs and trolls and stuff are going to look next to humans, though.
As long, you know who they need to bring in for that?
Peter Jackson?
No.
Guillermo del Toro?
There you go. He basically made the druid in, what was it? Pan's Labyrinth.
This is true. He did Pan's Labyrinth. He did
that man can do creatures.
He also did the Hellboy movies.
Yes.
I have not yet seen Hellboy 2, and I want to. I heard bad things.
Kick you in the head.
But I don't care. It's a superhero movie.
Yeah.
And I still need to see Stupid Pacific Rim with you, probably.
Yeah.
Movies. Speaking of movies, do you mind if I give a shout out to another podcast here real quick?
Fire away.
So I was recently a guest at the Pixel Response podcast, pixel-response.com. Paul and Nathan were very welcoming, despite my Skype being kind of hiccupy at the time, which is entirely my shitty computer's fault, and I apologize to them for it. When Paul wrote the summary of it, he said it was one of their more offensive episodes, which I attribute to my being on it. Laughs were had by all. We talked for 3 fucking hours into the late evening and early morning of the next day. And, the Pixel Response podcast is one I've listened to for quite a while now. back when I was branching out and looking to get other podcasts, when I was looking to listen to other local podcasts, because they're out of Calgary, right?
Okay.
And because I was trying to learn what we got to do to market ours and kind of make ours. And Paul and Nathan are very cool and were very welcoming, and I had a really good time with them. And I wouldn't mind at some point in the future getting one or both of them to guest on ours.
Hey, that'd be cool with me. We're
a lot lamer than they are, especially you. Actually, people know you.
Stop looking in the mirror.
People know you. I communicate with Novril, the guy who does the most of the work for the Guilty Bits video series. Yeah. I just do the voice and a little bit of the writing of the script. We talk to each other on Twitter when we're like, okay, check your SRK private message, because we talk to each other on private messages to give each other info and exchange audio files. And his last message to me was like, and here to explain why your last audio wasn't good enough is Dave, on his tweet. And I'm like, haha, Dave is known as the guy who I always put shit on.
Pretty much.
Indeed. That was my shout out of the week.
I don't really do shout-outs because I haven't listened to too many podcasts.
I know you don't.
Actually, I can do a shout-out for a gentleman who I've recently come in contact with. I've talked to him. At least I think I talked to him.
At least I think I talked to him and not some mop.
Random person.
Not a mop in the corner that I thought was a person.
Yeah, pretty much. He's the Swarmy Brit.
Swarmy? The Smarmy Brit? Swarmy or Smarmy? Look him up so we get the shout out down.
Yeah, gotta get this right. I had you listen to one of his reviews.
That guy.
He had problems recently with one of his podcasts being censored.
Yes, I recall this. I'm almost certain it's Smarmy Brit, but I could be wrong here. Britney Spears, that's the guy. For those of you who can't see what we're
Total
doing.
Biscuit, that's it.
Total Biscuit. Shout out
Cynical Brit.
Shout out to Cynical Brit, Total Biscuit.
Really like what your WTF is segment of your podcast. Definitely gives people a good look at how things are going. So keep up the good work.
Shout out to Cynical Brit. Thanks for putting on blast a game company that tried to censor you because they didn't like your review. Good on you. Fuck game companies who do that. While we're doing shoutouts, this is not game related at all, but I find a lot of gamers also were or are pro wrestling fans. And if you are, you owe it to yourself to listen to the Steve Austin podcast. Because that guy, his real life persona is just a nicer version of Stone Cold. And he has unprecedented pull for guests. If you ever wanted to see him interview out of character and talking about the business of wrestling and some of their memories of it, people like Bret Hart, Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, here's one you might like, Dave, Jim Ross, X-Pac, and have some really in-depth, uncensored stories about the business and about some of the hardships that they felt. Along with some good comedy, because Steve Austin has always been a pretty good performer, so he'll tell you some stories about how his terrible encounter with a woodpecker and the one time he just could not get a fly out of his hotel room. It is a great podcast, and anyone who was or is into pro wrestling really needs to take a listen, because like some interviews are just fun, like when he interviews Bret Hart and they're talking about all the shit they got into with each other, and some interviews are pretty heartfelt, like when he interviewed X-Pac, and he and I were in near tears sometimes with some of the hardships poor X-Pac had to face in his life, man.
Ouch.
It is a good listen, and I recommend it wholeheartedly.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, shoutouts. Are we good? We finished another podcast?
I think we're good.
All right, so this has been the Dave.
And the Carlos.
And the Carlos. Two fat guys, talk games, signing off. Till next time.
Second last episode of Season 1.
We don't know if we're ending Season 1 yet.
Season 1's fucking ending!
No,
Ending!
I'd say we need to take a break, but sometimes we don't release for a month anyway.
Ending.
Is it just because you don't want to follow a number?
Ending.
Seasons. You know, there's some podcasts where the triple... You know what? I'm the guy who edits this. You need buy-in
Ending.
from me, motherfucker. All right, here to talk about how he just received a vicious beating from me is Dave.
You wish.
Yeah,
Anyway, T-Fat Guys Talk Games,
Signing.
episode 38. Signing off.
signing off. Punch you in the balls so hard.
Break your hand.
I wish I had both balls still. So, if you've liked what you heard, you want to leave us some feedback, you want to give us some criticism, whatever, our podcast site is tfgtg.blogspot.com, where you can also find the feed link and our YouTube channel.
You can also find us on Twitter at TFGTG. Yeah. There's no way to continue that. So
There's no way to continue that
please,
sentence.
please leave us some feedback. We accept good and bad. We will usually respond, seeing as we have such a small group audience.
We do have thousands of millions of followers, so we might not respond to you right away.
Sure, let's go with that.